In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was loud.
Is it?
よろしくお願いします。
Ohio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the GeniusBrain Podcast. This is actually kind of late at night. And since I do this podcast at my crib, I decided to have the lady back on again.
Hi.
You know, when we do these podcasts, it's interesting because I generally don't know what direction to go when I do this, right? But I feel like the direction that I should take when it comes to you, and I don't know why this podcast is becoming more and more like this, but it seems to be more and more about relationships and how like having to deal with like social situations. So I have you on because, oh, by the way, this Winnie the Pooh pillow that I have next to me is something that I got for her.
And you look like him right now with that red shirt.
Oh, because he's yellow and I'm Asian? You racist.
How can I be racist?
Racist. I don't care. You're internally racist.
It's cute.
I have this covered because I don't want to show my penis. But
Okay.
So one of the things that I know that, well, actually, this was something that somebody sent, and they kind of wrote, they were asking how to be vulnerable with your partner or the person that you're with.
Hoi.
Why? Why is that a hoi?
Because it's hard. I mean, we went through a lot to open up each other, and till this day, I think it's pretty hard. We've learned.
For you?
I think so. It's just talking about your feelings is one thing, but how to express that so that the partner understands rather than getting emotionally attacked or like misunderstanding is hard.
Yeah, I mean, well, this person kind of, I don't have my phone next to me. Oh, actually I do, but I'm too lazy to look through it. But they were saying that it's hard for them to open up to their partner and the other person is really hard to open up to them. You know, I have a friend too who I just saw not too long ago, and she was telling me about her problems with her current boyfriend. Number one, they are they're like 10 years apart or something, right? I might have had that number wrong, but it's for them, it's very difficult because number one, they're too similar. So how they approach, how they communicate with each other is the exact same, but not in the exact same, like they clash because they think the same, but in the sense that both of them don't like to open up to each other.
That's
and
tough.
So they kind of just expect things to fall into place. And so what she was telling me was that they have this problem of everything is very surface, right? Or when there are problems, none of them open up to each other. So things kind of come out passive aggressively. Yeah. So for example, do you remember when we first started going out? And I always like to mention this because I think...
Which one?
I don't think it's the fact that I don't know if this has to do with vulnerability, but one of the behaviors that I really didn't like, that I think that you probably had an issue with when we first started, was passive aggressiveness. Right? Because you said that you didn't like getting angry.
Yeah. But I would bring it up in a different way.
Yeah.
To be fair, I would say it's not common to have someone to make you feel so sensitive about everything that sometimes you just don't know how to take that in, understand, and execute what you need to do. And I think that
how would I make you feel sensitive?
It's just, certain things that friends would say, it doesn't bother me. But when you say it, it's like a whole different meaning. It's just like all these questions come into my head. It's like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, what does he mean by that? Does he not like me anymore? Is he judging me now? Like, there's just so many questions that comes around. It's just like, Mariel, what is going on? I'm like, I don't know, but what is his emotion? It's just like starts gathering up and all these like emotions just come in and out. And at that moment, you just don't know what to do. And you're just like agitated because you can't figure it out. And I think that's what happened to me, is that it's not that I can't express being mad. It's just, I didn't know what to do. And so it just came out in a different way.
It was weird because because we're very expressive people, right? Especially when it came to joy. And when we first started going out, everything is very happy. It's very much that honeymoon phase. And when you're in that honeymoon phase, everything is just, when you walk around, it's a beautiful morning. Da, da, da.
It's a La La Land.
Yeah, we're walking through Skid Row, and all of a sudden we just see this dandelion in the cracks. Like, look at this beautiful flower in this crack.
It smells like jasmine.
I know, it smells like flowers over here. Look at that bum piss. Well, that person had to go. It's okay. It's a beautiful morning. But as we, do you remember when we first started going out, how
I said, what could possibly go wrong with us? What would we fight about? We're always so happy.
and I laughed in your face. That was so funny to me.
That's what I mean. It's just, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know that a person would make me feel so angry and so sad and so happy. Like, you were the first one who actually made me feel that way.
Oh, well, thank you.
But it took a while, and I'm really glad that you had the patience to walk with me on this, just how to emote that expression, because
it was
hard.
it was super. I mean, it was hard for you. It was hard for me. And I think because your family and my family they're very different, right? So you've been around my mom and dad. They're so expressive. They don't really hide their feelings at all. If my mom is upset, if my mom is happy, it's riddled all over her face. And she doesn't, even her passive aggressiveness isn't really that passive. Right? It's pretty fucking aggressive,
Yeah.
So
until this day, you parents, when they get into argument, they express it.
Yeah.
Where my family doesn't really do that. They used to, but I think they figure it's just a different way to cope. It's like your parents, they need to say it to let it out, whereas my parents, it's like they need alone time to let the heat go down.
There was a funny moment where so Mariel was a very hard person to figure out. Number one, she didn't have the long-term relationship experience. So she dated a lot, but she didn't have a boyfriend at this time when I met her. Now, mind you, like I when I first saw her, I was kind of smitten. I thought she was this super fun girl. She is this super fun girl.
I'm glad you corrected that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get my ass beat off this podcast. Super fun girl, just very easygoing, which she is, and she was then, and she still is now. But the thing that I wasn't prepared for, now mind you, I don't know. I when she told me that she didn't actually have a boyfriend or a very serious relationship before, it wasn't something that I was expecting, right? And I guess
you expect.
No, I just thought that you've dated at least somebody, or you had a serious relationship before, and mind you, like I met you when I was 26, and you were 25 around there. Yeah. So you were 25, I was 26. We were.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I had more of a light-weighted relationship.
Yeah, and so I didn't know what to expect and all the things that came with that package, right? So I didn't know that I had to have the patience to understand that, number one, a lot of the first stuff, a lot of the first relationship stuff you didn't experience.
Yeah.
And so, I felt that I kind of was ill prepared in that sense, because you didn't know, like, for example, you didn't even have your first couple fight yet. You didn't have.
No, there was none of those.
You never had the first boyfriend give you flowers, the first anniversary, the first month thing. There was a lot of things that you didn't do that I had to re-experience. It felt like I was in high school again, in a good and bad way at the same time, because a part of me was kind of like, ugh, because I've already I've done this a bit, but only because I felt bad that it didn't feel. It felt amazing, and it was great because it was with you. But I felt like I couldn't match that same energy because it was truly your first. And sometimes I felt like I would ruin those experiences because it wasn't maybe what you. I couldn't match the expectation that you had for what you wanted in that first experience.
I feel like you did well. I can't recall anything that was like disappointing for anything of our first. Like, I've always wanted to go to Disneyland with my serious relationship guy, and you happen to be that person.
Oh God, our Disneyland fights.
That was so fun. Little did I know that wasn't gonna happen again.
No, we went a lot though.
We did.
We went like 7 times at least.
We did. It wasn't. I mean, I'm glad that we did that when we were younger, because because we went from like morning till after midnight,
Till
right?
it closed.
Yeah, and it was New Year's Eve, and it was super crowded.
Oh, that was the first time was New Year's Eve,
Yeah, it was so crowded, and I don't know how we walked all day, because
I was hella fat too.
You were in the midst of losing weight, but you were bigger back then. You're skinnier now.
For sure.
But yeah, that was an amazing day, and that was the day where I told my people, be like, hey, who my boyfriend is. And I mean, I wouldn't able to do that now if you asked me, or if I asked you. Like, there's no way that was going to happen.
Disneyland was such a weird thing for me, and I mentioned this before on JK News, where the way she experiences Disneyland and the way that I experience Disneyland are two fucking different things.
It's like my childhood playground.
I know it's your childhood playground, but for me, I can't wrap my head around the fact of, number one, you've been there 4,000 times. Why does it feel like you've never been there before every time you walk in?
I think it's this thing. It's this fantasy of you go in and you're not this adult with lots of responsibilities. You go in as a kid, and kid who has this fantasy of it, all these fairies and imaginations and just like going back into your childhood memory. That's what it feels like to me. Like I'm going inside a dream.
That's insane. I always say this. I remember when I walked in and I saw this girl. She just like skipping around with, like, I feel like when you go to Disneyland, what happened, like you walk in and then what you picture is Goofy comes up to you, he goes, gosh, hi there, Mariel. And then Tinkerbell comes down, she boops you on the nose, boop, hello. And then she flies away and you're like, hello, Tinkerbell. And then that's your reality. Those are your goggles. And then for me, I see chipped paint, old paint, baby crying, couple fighting over here,
Really?
all these crowds like pushing me.
But then you have your Disney childhood. So don't you want like to be
But Disneyland wasn't a part of my childhood though. Disney was.
Yeah, so you see that happening, like embracing it and being like, oh, this is so magical.
Yeah, but I didn't have that connection like you had with Disney, because my thing was, I saw Aladdin, I saw Lion King, I saw Sword in the Stone. Like they were childhood films, but I didn't sit there and just, if there was like a Ninja Turtle world, I bet you I freaked the fuck out.
Really?
Yeah. But then they would have to put that in the sewer, so it might smell a little bit. So I don't know about that.
That's gross.
But for you, I don't have that same experience.
Well, I think it's also because I worked there when I was in high school. And I don't know, middle school, like my parents used to take me there with my friends, and it was, cheaper back then. And then in high school, I worked there. So there's a lot of memory that comes with it. But I think, it's just the whole like childhood memory, just going inside. It's like a dream. It's like you open a closet and it's like all of a sudden you're in a different world.
You used to get...
It's like Chronicles of Narnia.
I mean, just to go back to the whole being vulnerable thing, I think that you would take anything with Disney to heart. For example, do you remember when first of all, we had this, it was this weird feeling because we went to Disneyland. This is the last time we went to Disneyland. I was sick with the fever. Remember, I was sick with the fever. We took a picture or whatever, and I thought we were having a good time to the best of my ability.
Oh.
I thought we were having a good time to the best of my ability. And afterward, I felt something was a little off. And then on the car ride home, I asked you, I was like, hey, I actually had a pretty good time. And you go, eh. and I was looking at you like, what do you mean? I had a good time. And you were, you just didn't seem as happy as I wanted you to be. I was like, what do you mean happy as let me enjoy Disney the way I want to enjoy Disney. Why have to enjoy Disney the way you want me to?
Because I want to skip around, and you were just like,
with a fever.
Well, we didn't know you had a fever. You were getting better. If you had fever, we could have stayed home.
I did. You knew I was sick before we left.
We thought you were getting better.
And I was. And I started getting better towards the last couple hours.
Well, either way, because like when I go to Disneyland, usually with my girlfriends or whoever, like we just skip around. I mean, you see John's girlfriend, and like she skips around, twirls around, just have a great time.
Yeah, but you guys are sick freaks. Like, no.
Well, that's your girl, man. I guess it's runs in the family. You guys like that.
I mean, you're just sitting around spinning around. When we were in Paris
It's
too,
so
we went
fun.
to Paris Disneyland. It was raining, and then she goes, "Can you record me?" And I'm like, what do you mean?
With that
record you?
voice?
Can you record me? I was like, doing what? She goes, "I'm gonna spin." And so I had this. I'm recording her. She's just like, la 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 la.
La, 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 la. It was fun.
Bunch of French people
It's so
looking at
funny
you,
because
sacre
in my
bleu.
world, in my imagination, I was like jumping around really high, like singing in the rain, and then look at the video.
You look crazy.
I look like I have a huge hump on my back and just like oink, oink, oink.
I mean, yeah.
But, I have to say though, recently it's been kind of different. I don't know why. I think it's because that time I was my first time working at Disney. It was everything was first.
Yeah.
Like I was going in there as an employee, working at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was this butterfly of like everything being first.
I can't believe I'm here.
Yeah. as a employee, and then bringing in my friends or family for free, all the perks that you get out of it. But this round, I don't know. I'm more like, I feel like I'm a little bit retired from that.
You feel like you're retired from Disney?
I still love going there, but I'm not as energetic.
That's
Maybe
crazy.
it's because I'm aging. I mean, that was, to be fair, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I gotta save my energy so I can.
But that was also your first, with your first, your very first serious boyfriend. You got to go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
That was something that you were dreaming about. And albeit I didn't meet your expectation of what you want, like a Disney boyfriend.
I think you did well my first round when we went to Disneyland for the first time. But then, yeah, the last round, I was just like, you know what? He did it for the past 4 years.
Yeah, and then you went with your friends and you found out, oh, maybe I'm not even into it as much as I used to be.
Yeah, I got old. I aged.
But to go back to being, the whole vulnerable
we're
thing.
going off track here.
We're going on tangent. But, being vulnerable with you was very hard. And I
Was
think,
it hard for you?
Oh, yeah, it was super hard. Specifically because you've never felt what it felt. You don't know what it feels like to be
In love?
dumped after you, like.
Sorry, it's so off.
Yeah, that was way off. But you
Dumped.
don't
No.
like to have your heart broken, and even Gio doesn't know what it's like to be dumped. She's never been dumped before.
Damn.
Now, mind you, I'm on
the same level as Gio.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, shut up. She's not that great. But when I was, let's see, how old was I? Was I 19 years old? So when I was 19 years old, I had my very first heartbreak. I got dumped for the very first time in my life. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because during that moment when you get your heart broken, right? And that everything especially as a 19-year-old kid, everything at that moment feels like hell. Like this feeling of having your heart broken that moment will never pass. It just won't pass. It's impossible. Every day you wake up and you open your eyes and you don't want to open your eyes anymore. Like I remember laying in bed crying my eyes out because this woman left me. But, and the reason why was because during that time, I went through this whole period of having a very low self-esteem. Right. I mean, we can go into a litany of reasons why, but she at that time, because I didn't really value myself as a person and I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, who I wanted to be, I kind of put my whole existence into this girl. So
That's a very bad start.
Of course. And I was young at the time too. So if she told me I was worth something, I was worth something. If she told me I was a good person, I'm a good person. If she said I was a bad person, I was a bad person. And I was so emotionally volatile at the time.
Why were you like that before you met her? Like, why is it that you didn't have yourself like a confident identity?
I just didn't like myself.
You didn't like yourself.
I don't think I liked myself. I didn't know what I was doing. I had, trouble in my household because, I wasn't like my older brother. My brother was very academic. He did really well in school. I did terrible in school, albeit I did really well on my SATs, but that was the only accomplishment that I had in school. Mm-hmm. When you graduated high school and people would have all these like tassels and I had nothing. And my brother had a bunch of sashes. I had absolutely nothing. I just wanted to get the hell out of high school. Mm-hmm. And so when this girl came around, and mind you, she was, I considered her my best friend as a girl, my girl best friend. She was everything to me. Like having her around made me feel good. And so I chased that feeling. And so when she was around, I was happy. And for me, I wanted to hold on to that happiness so hard. So I didn't want her to go anywhere. I was the worst type of boyfriend ever. I was extremely jealous.
Clingy.
I was very clingy. I wanted to talk to her on the phone like 4 or 5 hours a night, And when I left to college, so I went to UCR, she went to Davis at the time. And, when I look back on it, we don't have anything in common really. Like she and I are two completely different people, but because she was my identity, she meant everything to me. So I went to UCR, she went to Davis, and I hated UCR. I didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
I hated it. So the only thing I could hold on to was that every night she and I would talk on the phone and she would make me feel good. Mm-hmm. And so when she broke up with me, my existence my identity shattered because she was my identity, which was the worst thing you could ever fucking do.
I can't imagine what that's like because I've never, not that I had like confidence in myself or anything, but to the fact that where you're hanging on to someone else so hard to have an identity, That sounds scary.
Yeah. I mean, I was a 19-year-old kid with low self-esteem and I didn't know what to do, you know? And she was the one that actually helped me feel better about myself. So, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand. And so when she left and she decided to leave, and albeit she made a great choice, it's like a part of me. If I would describe the physical feeling, the physical manifestation of what it felt like to be dumped at 19, it was like somebody ripped my heart out of my chest and just had it sink into the bottom of my stomach, and it felt like my stomach was turning. Yeah. That's what it felt like. And I could still remember what that feels like today.
How did you cope with it?
I listened to a lot of Brian McKnight. Why do you think I know so much Brian McKnight? Yo, I know Brian McKnight songs because I got dumped so much.
And that's how we clicked too. Remember on our first date, you turned it on and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this song.
Which one was it?
It was, I think you had Back at One, even though that's like your least favorite.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite.
And let's start back at one, yeah. No, it was 6-8-12.
Was it? No, I swear it was Back at One.
It's undeniable that we should be together.
That's Back at One.
Oh, that is right. Yeah.
Show off.
Yeah, so we had, and so after she left me, I think, number one, there was a couple of life lessons that I had from that. Number one, I learned how big of a fucking loser I was. I learned that the reason why I was a loser is because I put all of myself into a woman, or at the time a girl, for what? Like what would that have done? You know what I mean? She leaves, I'm left with nothing. I was listening to Brian McKnight, Boys to Men. You know what the song that I had spinning on Boys to Men was on a perfect day, you know that I can count on you. That one, and you know how there's thunder and rain in the back, and I would just sit there crying in my bed.
You loser!
I know.
Oh my god, you're such an emo.
Possible, tell me, can you weather?
Were you like the main character in K-drama, just like looking all handsome, crying? Because
I wasn't handsome. I was disgusting, and I still am disgusting till this day. But then I was worse, and.
You don't look disgusting.
Oh, thank you, sweetie. She's like, you don't look disgusting because I date you, all right?
I know.
But I remember after that, I mean, just to fast forward, and we could talk about this part just because it doesn't have anything to do with the topic of this podcast today. But being vulnerable after that was very hard because I was so scared of feeling that way again.
Yeah. You want to protect yourself.
Of course. And I never, ever, 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 ever wanted to feel that way again. And so after I dated her, I dated other people who just weren't my type.
Yeah.
And the reason why I wanted to date somebody who wasn't my type, and I started dating anybody and everybody that would have me, just because I told myself that this person was the one as a 18, 17, 16-year-old boy. So I had a huge crush on her starting from sophomore year of high school. And I got the girl, my high school crush. I finally got her. So I was like, I don't know who I am, which means I don't know what I like. And I think this was really definitively the onslaught of me starting to invoke this thing in my life where I was like, you don't know what you like until you try it. Because I was I made my mind up so much to the point that I thought that this one type of girl was my person and she wasn't. I wasn't going to make that mistake again. So I decided to date anybody and everybody and everybody. And so,
oh, you loser.
Well, that's not a loser. What are you talking about?
I was like, you wanted to be a hoe.
No, I wasn't a hoe. We just dated. You know, mind you, I didn't. You know this about me. I didn't sleep around a lot. It wasn't my thing, and I don't think a lot of women wanted to sleep with me at the time. So for me, it was just I would date, and then if the person wasn't somebody that I liked, I just kind of cut it off. I'd be like, oh, we get along, but it's
oh,
it's
so
not
you just wanted to date on the surface.
Or if it went further and then we hooked up, we did, but it wasn't the goal I had in mind. I think comparatively to a lot of my guy friends, I wasn't as sexually active or sexually driven. So a lot of my friends, when they were younger, I think they would always talk about pussy, sex, getting girls, banging them, them sucking your dicks and stuff. And for me, I would just sit there awkwardly, just laughing like, ha, 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 because I just wanted to fall in love.
Oh, you're such
I was a sappy
cutie.
boy. I wanted to fall in love. And so.
Well, you found the right girl then.
How about you were the first girlfriend? I'm kidding. She's dead to me. But no, she's a sweet girl. But I just was so afraid of being that way.
Yeah.
And then you are by far my number one, my longest relationship.
Sure.
I think
it should be the longest.
It is.
First of all,
I said by far. my longest relationship. You're the longest relationship. You're the most successful, and you are the one that I've been the happiest with.
Really?
For sure. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
And so having to go through the stage, and I didn't realize that since then, when I was 18 or 19, 20, whatever, or during those times that I was dating people and I was just kind of pushing people away, I didn't realize that I had this vulnerability barrier. You know? And I started noticing this when a couple years down the line where when I was next to you and I knew that I loved you, I could tell you that I love you, right? But you would ask me stuff like, text me in the morning, you know? And, you know, I didn't want to text you in the morning.
Like good morning?
I didn't want to do it. And the honest reason why is because, and when I look back at it now, is because it made me vulnerable.
Why?
Because I would have to show you this side that I care all the time. And it wasn't a card that I got to keep to myself. Like, I'll show you how much I care when I want to. But if I have to do that, then that means that at this set moment in time, every time I wake up during the day, I have to show you how vulnerable I am. Good morning, sweetie. And that was hard for me.
You never told me about this.
Well, I only realized this probably maybe like a year-ish or so ago. And because I couldn't, you know, there's times where I sit at night, you know, I have insomnia. And so I kind of think about these things like, yo, why couldn't I just do that? And when I think back on it now, it's because I was just scared. Like, I didn't want to give you that.
Because you were afraid I was going to dump you? Or
that's really what it is. Because it's like, you kind of give somebody, when you're vulnerable, you give somebody this opening to hurt you.
Yeah.
And it's this fear of like, oh shit, am I going to let this person do this again? Am I going to have to be that 19, 20-year-old kid that was crying in his bed again? And that's the part that's scary. And I think that's also the scary part of marriage. That's the scary part of committing to somebody and having these kids, because you also have to commit to the fact that once this person takes your heart, takes everything with them, there's a chance that they might leave. What if they die? What if they, these kind of things go through my head. But I kind of stopped myself I kind of stopped opening myself to you in fear of what I was going to lose rather than focusing on what I had.
Wow. I didn't know. I thought you were just open book.
I mean, you
were hard to get time to time. I'd be like, dude, just do it. And you'd be like, no. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
But I didn't know it's because you were afraid that you're going to get hurt.
I mean, I think you had issues with being vulnerable too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you couldn't, like I said, you couldn't even you would pretend like you weren't mad.
Well, I think that, I don't know if it's vulnerable. Maybe it is, but it was just a different door that I never had to open up. You know, like I would never have to scream or yell at my parents. It's not like I have siblings. I've never dealt with that kind of conflicts with friends, more or less because we don't have to go to that level. So I think it's just more of like, first of all, I don't like yelling. I think that's just like very tiresome. And the fact that I had to do that, I guess so, it is vulnerable, because then it's just like, oh, I'm doing something that I just don't want to be part of.
I mean, it was weird because I thought the oddest thing about you when we were getting into fights was you arguably, when you were enraged and you felt sad, you wanted to cry, but you always wanted to hold back your tears because you didn't want to let me see you cry. Because I think that for you, it was like, if I let this guy see me cry, I'm gonna show him that I'm weak.
Yeah. Crying is definitely my weak point. I hate crying. I hate crying in front of anyone. But then, if I show that I'm crying in front of you, felt like I lost the game.
I remember the first time you actually bawled in front of me.
언제?
Do you remember?
Oh, there's so many. So I
don't. You actually don't bawl in front of me a lot.
Oh, just like teary, but no.
No, this is you actually crying. You went.
When was this?
It was when I was living in the Cape Town spot. And you already opened up to me the fact that there was a period in your life where you gained a lot of weight and you didn't like your self-image. And this is when I was bigger and I was trying to lose weight by doing macros. And you didn't understand what macros were. And I don't know whether you believed it in or not or whatever. You didn't like my methodology. So I would put in my macros and I was losing weight through, just managing my fat, calories, and whatever, right? And it was working here and there. But then I don't know what happened with the way we were communicating back in the day, but either way we got into an argument. But I remember the feeling that I took away from the argument was that you were making it difficult for me to really love myself, and you were hurting my self-image. And I remember what I said to you was that I was like, you should know what it feels like to be overweight and not like the way you look, but however you felt then is how you make me feel when you talk to me about my weight. And then you got really quiet, and then you just started tearing up, and you went and you started bawling while you were laying in my bed.
Oh my God, I don't remember
You don't remember this? You were bawling, and then, after you were crying, I couldn't figure out why. I was like, what the hell? What the hell are you crying
Did
about,
I make
dude?
you feel bad about your weight?
Yeah.
What? What was I saying?
I think you were just...
And this was before, this is not when you were the biggest.
No, this was like a year into our relationship. So, and I remember you crying because you felt that you were being a bully, and that you were kind of hurting my self-image a lot. And I remember you just bawling your eyes out. You don't remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
You were crying. That was the first time I ever saw you just full out cry in front of me.
Holy cow. How come I don't remember this? But it must have been a really good girl to cry because I felt bad for being a bully that I didn't even know.
Yeah, you felt really bad. But ever since then, you never really mentioned anything about my weight.
To tell you the truth, I grew up, my friends or anyone, my friends, or the guys who I've dated, I have to say, everybody was fairly active. I didn't have anyone who was big or
just overweight. Overweight, just inactive, just didn't really care too much about physical activity.
It was actually a shock that I was...
With a fat guy?
I was falling in love with this guy who I'm just like, I don't know if I'm... Honestly, I was like, I don't know if I'm physically attracted to this guy.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, that hurts. But no.
No, but that was true.
That's truth. It's truth. I understand.
Probably that's why it seeped out like that, because I've never dated anyone who was overweight. So I was like, this is weird. I don't know why I'm still dating this guy, because I think I really enjoyed your personality.
Yeah.
And
I think that was most girls.
Maybe. And I was trying to see like if this is going to last. And honestly, yeah, I think that's what it is for both of us. Like for the first at least year or two, like we were seeing if we were a match for each other.
Yeah.
And the first year, it was a struggle for me. I don't think I've ever told you, but like I was just not sure if I was going to be fully committed to this relationship, because I don't know if I was attracted to you.
Oh, really?
Completely.
What, just because of the physical part?
Yeah. Because physically, I just wasn't sure if I was attracted to you. Now it's a different story. Well,
I guess like physically, if you didn't feel physically attracted to me, you sure as hell kissed me a lot.
Not the first year.
First year, yeah.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Well, that's the thing. It was like slowly, gradually, as the more I got to know you, the more that didn't become apparent.
Do you feel like back then when you were younger, you were maybe a little bit too focused on looks?
Shallow, yeah.
A little shallow?
I think so, because I didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
I was getting to know you, and I liked what I was seeing on the inside. Mm-hmm. But I was like, but it wasn't enough for me to not think about the physical attraction.
Yeah. I feel a lot of people get weirded out when somebody says that. And for me, when you tell me that, like, I'm not even offended by that. And I understand, because I think that sometimes when...
Well, if you are, it's too late.
Yeah. Well, it's too late. We've been together for such a long time.
I know.
But I feel like when people sometimes hear that, they get disappointed in an individual who says things like that openly. But, physical attraction is a huge part of being in a relationship. And I'm not saying that's for everybody. Some people, they go, it's never about looks. Cool. Well, that's for you. Some people, that physical attraction part matters. Mm-hmm. It matters. And it even matters for me too. I'm not going to lie. Even though I look like a sea monster, I still wanted to be with a pretty person.
You look like my Pooh Bear.
Well, now I do.
I know.
And I think for you, it's big. For me, I mean, I can't speak for you, but if I were to interpret it, it's because you were so active and you were so adamant about your health life. I mean, there was a certain point where you were just making all healthy recipes, and it was something that made you happy, and that was something that you couldn't share with me.
Yeah.
And it probably made you sad too, that there's somebody who, like, a representation of, maybe for you, my dedication or non-dedication to fitness was also representation that I didn't care about myself. And I understand, and I didn't care about myself in that sense. Like, I didn't care enough about how being overweight was affecting me. And even now, you even know this too, and I didn't notice this until you mentioned it. When I lost even the first 30 pounds, my attitude was different.
This round or?
This round.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I didn't know that. I didn't know how
Man, you have no idea how hard it was when you were at your max weight. When was it, what, 2 years ago now?
Yeah. How come you never? Well, I guess it's hard to mention it, right?
I mean,
you did mention it, but
yeah, I did mention it, but it wasn't. I think that year was probably one of the hardest. Emotionally, it was kind of hard because you were going through a lot with your career, and that was affecting your health. And I could clearly see the correlation between those two. And
I was just miserable.
you were trying so many things, and like I couldn't tell you to stop anything because I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
And eating was your way to relieve your stress, and that all I could do was just kind of be there for you because you weren't gonna listen to anyone either way. You had to go through it, realize that what you like and when you don't like, and I was just there for you regardless. And it was kind of hard for me because I could see that you're going down with your health, and I was like concerned about that. But I think once you have realized it, towards the end of the year, I did tell you like how I felt about, how you're doing with your health and like your work and our quality time. Like you rarely had time for us. And so I could see that you were becoming very weak, and I couldn't become weak with you. I couldn't go along with that. Like someone had to be the stronger end, right? Yeah. And so, I got to the point where it's like, I think we need to sit down and talk about this. Yeah. And what I realized is that even though that was your biggest weight, which if I look at it again right now, like it
doesn't even look like me.
It is amazing how much I did not see that too. Like I saw that you were gaining a lot of weight, but I didn't see it as like disgusting person. I saw you as like someone who's trying super hard to make things work.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be there for you.
Yeah.
And I realized that's when it hit me. I was like, I don't think I really care about like whether he's big or not. Like I just want to make sure that he's happy.
And when she says like disgusting too, it's not like the fat what made me disgusting. It was my behavior, how I carried myself, my attitude. There was just a lot of things that were just going downhill. And I couldn't, and even then too, it was hard for me to be vulnerable with you because I wanted to be a strong figure in your life. I wanted to be the strong boyfriend, and I didn't want to show you that side either. And for me, to be honest with you, the person that probably helped me, I mean, you and Vanessa were the two biggest people that helped me lose the weight the most, right? Because Vanessa, if you guys don't know who Vanessa is was my former assistant.
Sweetest girl.
So sweet. And I call her my assistant. She's like my baby sister. I love this girl to
I love
death.
Her attitude.
She was one of those people that just had to deal with my shit the most.
She was there throughout the whole thing.
And there was a point where I was just giving her a paycheck just to help me, just to be around and just do shit for me. Like I didn't need her to do it, but I was I was in such a rut. I just needed her to do it because I couldn't get out of bed.
You were spread.
And I was spread so thin, I was trying to do the acting. It was just so much, And
I knew that you didn't want to show your weakness of it. Like I know that you were tired, exhausted, but you didn't want to show that. So I'm just there, kind of just being there.
Yeah.
Being your girlfriend, being the girl who, you want to get out of that stress. So, you come to me or you go to Vanessa. And I just, that's all I wanted to do for you. And that's all I could do.
Yeah.
Which was really hard.
It was hard. I think it affected a lot of, huge parts of our relationship. Like quality time was the hardest thing. I was just so distracted. And I was trying to distract myself with anything and everything to avoid the fact that I was gaining weight. I wasn't feeling good. And I just didn't know what to do, And
what hit you then to come to?
Well, I mentioned this on an earlier podcast, but I listened to this podcast with Joe Rogan where they had this guy named David Goggins on there, and David Goggins is this former Navy SEAL. His story is insane, but basically he was 300 pounds. He was heavier than I was, and he actually failed going into the military multiple times, and his story was so inspiring. And I think the thing that hit me the most was what he told me was you're kind of just a lot of people just kind of race against other people, but they never, kind of race against themselves.
Yeah.
So don't be the best at what other people tell you to be. Be the best that you can be, and then kind of measure yourself with that. And he kind of had this thought. It's like, are you happy? He goes, are you really happy? Are you happy being this person? Can you really live the rest of your life being this human being? And what are the things that you're going to do to make it happen and change? And if you are truly happy with it, then what are all these things that are making you feel this way?
Yeah.
And I just, something about the way that he spoke to me, and he's very harsh. I think he's a maniac, but and it doesn't work for everybody else, but that's how I communicate. So it worked well with me.
What's crazy is that I think there were a lot of friends who were concerned, including myself, and kind of talked to you. But this random stranger is the one who inspired you, and it clicked in your head, be like, okay, I need to change my life. And you listen to his podcast, is it what it is?
It was his podcast on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Every single day.
I listened to that podcast.
You worship that podcast.
I listened to that singular podcast every day when I walked 4 to 5 miles a day for almost 3 months.
It's almost like, why even bother? Just get a random stranger's.
Well, he's not a random. His story was so inspiring, and it reminded me of myself and how much I didn't like myself. So
I was just kidding about that. But it's kind of crazy how, that person probably has no idea how he basically saved your life.
For sure. He has no idea. It's the ripple effect that he had. He's probably done it for a lot of people. And I would have never thought either that this stranger on a podcast could have done that for me. 100%. I would have never thought that. But it's kind of crazy how life works that way, right?
I know. How sometimes it just hits you like that. And, the first 30 pounds you lost your weight, you changed a lot. Thank goodness. Yeah. You were becoming happier. You started seeing the positive side of the world. And the most grateful thing that I have is that we have a similar diet now. Yeah. No more like eating 5 to 7 tacos every night.
Oh God, I ate so many tacos.
Dude, that was insane. I could do it once, but like you were doing it every night, and now it's like shabu shabu. Yeah, I hated shabu shabu, and now I love it.
It's the people are like, oh, well, you only eat healthy food. No, I eat the stuff that I want. Obviously, I still want to lose another like 20 pounds, but what I have to forego in order to lose those 20 pounds is a lot. I'm not sure if I'm that interested in it, but it's more of like a fun goal for me now. It's if I do it, it's because I'm dedicated, because now it's a challenge. The other stuff happened, me losing weight happened because not so much that I was proactive in losing weight. I was just more proactive in eating better things because it made me feel good. Yeah. Vegetables, fruits, whole foods. I didn't eat it because, it was going to help me lose weight. I ate it because it made me feel fucking amazing.
Yeah. And it like you want to eat it. It's not that, oh my God, I have to eat this
to lose weight. It's more like I crave
for those kale and crave for those.
Yeah, it's so I would have never. Beef. I never would have thought that I would crave healthier food. Like I crave it. Like I crave it. Like when I was fat, I would crave a fat burger. Like that's how much I crave fruits. That's how much I crave vegetables. Just veggies and meats, and then simple carbs because of how it makes me feel after and how I feel when I wake up, which is such an odd thing. And I would have never said that. And every time somebody told me that, I go, "You have been poisoned. Your mind has been poisoned. I don't know what you're talking about. Hamburgers are good. You sick human being.
Hamburgers are good. I just had a hamburger that you made this week, and it's freaking good. But I can't have that every day." Yeah, for sure. I'm going to crave for those fibers and veggies.
Yeah, you start to chase a feeling of, I don't want to say health. It's just feeling good. That's really what it is. You just feel better.
I think one other thing is that we are getting older, and I think our body is not as, tolerable with all the junk food. And we just like these organic vegetables, the natural ones. And our body is just telling us what they like. I think so, personally.
I don't think it has anything to do with age. It's just us allowing ourselves to really be in tune with our body, right? So I was never in tune with my body. I was like, diarrhea, that should happen 5 times a week maybe, But gross. I was just super out of shape. And even now, I'm not in the best shape of my life. I'm just a lot better. I was just that bad. And I don't want anybody to feel... I've been fat my whole life. And so sometimes I get, some bigger people, when they hear this, they go, oh, well, skinny is not better than fat. Like nobody's saying that.
No, it's
I'm talking about strictly from a health purpose.
Yeah.
If we're having this conversation based on how you feel about yourself personally and what media and society does, that's a completely different conversation. That's another podcast. I'm just telling people about how choosing to be healthier helped improve my mood, helped improve my sleep, helped improve my relationship. There's a lot of things that happened with this, and it had nothing to do with me wanting to look good. You could even ask Mariel right now. I legitimately thought I looked fucking cute all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would not listen to anyone. I'm like, this guy is just full of himself. I'll let him be.
And some people wear their weight very well. I did not wear my weight very well at all. Like I just didn't. I never really cared to talk shit about myself, and that maybe has to go back to how back in the day I had low self-esteem, and I switched that with a mental flip, and I just kept that energy going. And so no matter what, if I gain weight, if I just woke up in a tank top and flip-flops and socks and shorts and basketball, I just always thought I looked good. And no matter what setting. And it kind of at a certain point started becoming detrimental because I was 270 pounds almost.
That's
and
insane.
I was just in pain, and I just ignored it because I thought I was fine.
Yeah. And you hated walking.
Oh, I love walking now.
That was so hard.
Yeah.
That you hated walking. You just lay in bed all day. I was like, dude, this guy. You're going to what? Oh, I forgot. Sorry. It's too late. My brain just stopped working for a second. But now look at you. Like, you love walking.
I genuinely love walking. I love it. Like, it makes me feel good.
I'm happy for you.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hope that I don't know if it really answered anything about.
We didn't really talk about.
Well, let's just kind of wrap this up. It's like, how do you, end up, being vulnerable with your partner? It's just allowing yourself to be hurt and also allowing yourself to be happy. That's basically what it is. They go hand in hand.
We should do part 2 of this.
I mean, for sure. I mean, they go hand in hand, and that's the thing that you really can't avoid. It's just if you're open to feeling this great amount of love and happiness, you're gonna be also opening yourself to be hurt, and that's life. And a lot of people want to delete that part of their life. They want to say, "I want to be happy without feeling sad," and that's like saying, "I want the sun to rise but never to go down." It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to go for it, and knowing that it might not come back as what you want, but at least you know that you tried.
Yeah, and to what a lot of people say, or I feel that a lot of people say, they go, well, what if it happens again? What if I get hurt again? That's life, homie.
I know.
That's life. You're not special. That happens to everybody. Anybody who is open to being in a relationship, that's going to happen. So.
Yeah, like if you're driving out there, you get into an accident, are you never going to drive again?
True. True.
It's going to happen, but you take that leap of faith that it's going to become or do your best to not get into an accident, and you'll get to your destination sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, guys, that concludes this episode of the Genius Brain Podcast, where we talked about being vulnerable with your partner. Man, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to relationship stuff, I'd probably bring Mariel on again because she is my life partner. So, life partner. So, guys, remember, you can go to iTunes and give us that 5-star. If you're on Spotify, CastBox, whatever, we're there to be with you on your commute and just to chop it up. I don't know what the topics really are going to be until like 2 minutes before this stuff, but hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I will see y'all next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace.